I wanted to turn to something else that you have an involvement with as part of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, which covers quite a lot of everything that goes on in Washington, because it covers health, education, labor, and pensions.
Yes. You have probably no interest in the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee unless you care about your health or your kids' health, your education or your kids' education. Labor part is only if you work or plan to work or have worked, and pensions are if you want to have a secure retirement. Other than that, you probably don't care about the work we do on the Health Committee.
But coming up next year is going to be, well, likely next year, because no one's going to do anything about it this year. I think we'd all concede the education reauthorization, which is to say that
the elementary and secondary, the elementary and secondary Education Act will be reauthorized. It's up for reauthorization. We've already had about a dozen hearings on it.
Right.
We'll maybe start marking it up. Hopefully, I'd like to say in the lame duck session.
Right. Now, the signature education initiative of the Obama administration has been raced to the top, as opposed to the Bush administration's No Child Left Behind. And it's been described as a carrot approach rather than a stick approach. Well, Minnesota bid for $330 million in the first round of this and didn't get anything. There were only 2 states that did. And in the second one, we didn't even bother to try. So I'm wondering,
which I think is a mistake. But
well, is the carrot sweet enough from Washington, or is Minnesota getting left behind in this new program?
Well, the race to the top is about, I guess, $5 billion of carrot. And it is really to provide is competitive grants. But not everything is going to be competitive grants. And the real work in reauthorizing this, it's really reauthorizing No Child Left Behind, and it'll be different, it'll be changed. But we have learned a lot about No Child during these years of No Child Left Behind, and we've learned a lot about how we've done this wrong. As I've traveled around the state of Minnesota, I haven't met a teacher who doesn't believe in accountability. But I also haven't met a teacher, I've met one teacher, actually, that likes No Child Left Behind, and that's a teacher who is a professor at, I think at Carleton, and who comes up and teaches once a week on the north side of Minneapolis. And what he likes about No Child Left Behind is something that we should agree is good, is that it focuses on the gaps in achievement between minorities and others in Minnesota, and therefore make schools put a focus on how minority students are doing, because you can lose your annual yearly progress. You can be considered a failure if everybody does well but one minority group doesn't succeed. And there are good things and bad things about that, which is you have schools that have a very small minority population, so you wonder about the validity of that. But one of the things that we've learned is that we should be focusing on the growth in school, the progress that the kids are making, and not on achieving an absolute standard. For example, my daughter is here, she's here today, she is a teacher and also now a school administrator in public schools in DC. And she taught 3rd grade for 3 years in a school in the Bronx that had a very, very high percentage of kids who are at the free meal or reduced price meal level. Now, 3rd grade is the first year in which they do No Child Left Behind testing. She had kids who were maybe on average at this level, and in order to pass AYP, for her kids to pass, they had to get to this level. Well, 15 miles to her north, there were kids in Westchester, who 3rd grade teachers who had kids at this level already, who had to get to that level to be successes. Well, as Secretary Duncan said in his first hearing that we had on No Child Left Behind, or on this reauthorization, a 6th grade teacher who brings his or her kids from a third grade level to the fifth grade level is not just a success, but a hero. And yet, the way we do No Child Left Behind now and annual yearly progress, we'd say that teacher was a failure. So we've got to measure growth.
Now, I wanted to get real quickly to one thing before we open it up to some audience questions. When this reauthorization comes around, it may behoove us to look at the two areas in education that the federal government actually directly controls, because of course the states have a primary role in education for everything else. But I'm thinking specifically of something that you see on the Indian Affairs Committee, which is reservation schools run by the Bureau of Indian Education, which is under the Department of Interior. Now, just 1/4 of these schools are meeting federal testing standards, and 1/3 of them were rated in poor condition. We have one, Circle of Life School, that in 2004 was put on a list to get immediately replaced, and I believe after years and years of delay, they might break ground this year. I mean,
well, this has been something that I and my staff have been particularly focused on, and I've asked pretty hard questions in Indian Affairs, and I'm on the Indian Affairs Committee. We had a hard time getting a list of the order of schools to have school construction on, and for months we're just simply attempting to get that list. What you got was a list that our office finally got,
right,
from of the list in 2004, and we have a number of schools at Leech Lake and at White Earth that need to be rebuilt, and I'm very unhappy with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Bureau of Indian Education, and these are bureaucracies that I think that don't get the greatest attention in the world from any administration. They have gotten a lot more attention from the Obama administration than they did during Bush. But I'm going to be having a field hearing at the White Earth Reservation on this very topic, on school reconstruction.
All right, and with that, let's go out to some audience questions. I think we